Welcome back to the channel, Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and let's take a look at the Codex Leagues of Votann most recent FAQ errata. So it's updated the 30th of November 2022, which is today. So let's take a look at that. All right, so here we have the Codex Leagues of Votann. So we'll skip the little beginning part. We know what that's all about. So updates and errata. So page 86, the Eye of the Ancestors. That was the previous nerf. The fifth paragraph changed to read, note that if an attack automatically wounds a target as a result of this ability, then for the purposes of any other rules that are triggered on a particular wound roll, the attack is never considered to have been made with an unmodified wound roll of 6. That was a major nerf that came out that nerfed their entire army-wide ability. So they still wound based on the judgment tokens, but it never counts as a 6. They also had a massive points increase that came out as well. So put those on the back burner for later, and let's take a look at the new stuff. So page 88, Uthar the Destined. Unit description, changed to read, Uthar the Destined is equipped with a Volkite Disintegrator, the Blade of Ancestors, Rampart Crest. Your army can only include one Uthar the Destined model. So obviously, if we look here, it was very clear this was an error in the codex. Uthar the Destined is equipped with Volkite Disintegrator, Blade of the Ancestors, and Rampart Crest. It says nothing about only being able to have one in your army. Obviously, he is intended to be a unique special character, so your army can only include one. That was pretty obvious change, no surprise there. And then next we have page 99, the Hekaton Land Fortress Weapon Table Bolt Cannon. Change the weapon type to Hunter 3. Alright, so here we have the Hekaton Land Fortress datasheet, and we also have the weapon profiles from the War Gear section as well. So we can see here on the Hekaton Land Fortress, Bolt Cannon was listed as 36 inches, Hunter 2, 6, -2, 2 damage. And then here in the War Gear section, we can see the bolt cannon clearly listed at 36-inch range, Hunter 3, 6, -2, 2 damage. We also see on the Sagittar, it has twin bolt cannons, and the twin bolt cannons are 6 shots. So it was very, very clear where the error is actually at. The error is on the Hekaton Land Fortress datasheet. So again, no surprise there. Just another mistake in the book. No surprise, obviously, as at this point in time, there's basically nothing that has been untouched inside of this book. So the data sheet was clearly the misprint. All right, and then just moving along to the FAQs. Do weapons with a beam ability affect friendly units along the line between the firing model and the target unit? The answer is A, yes. A wound roll should be made against those friendly units in the same manner as attacks against enemy units. All right, so here we have the beam special abilities. The important thing about the beam special ability is this is already specifically handled in the book. So I'm not sure why they made this FAQ, and also I'm not sure how they came to this ridiculous conclusion. So here we see it says some Votann weapons have the beam ability. Each time an attack is made with such weapon, if a hit is scored, draw a line between the closest point of the model's base or hull and that of the closest model in the target unit. Make one wound roll against the target unit, and each other unit in the line passes over, excluding units that are not eligible to be targeted by this weapon when targets were selected. When a vehicle model makes an attack with a beam weapon that targets an enemy unit in engagement range of it, the attack is only resolved against that target unit, and it cannot be hit by any other unit. Alright, so we have two different examples here to look at. Example 1, a Votann model with a beam weapon targets a unit. So you're basically targeting unit C right here. And then unit A is an eligible target, but unit B is not an eligible target because it's a character. So because of the lookout sir rule, you cannot hit him with it. And then here we have example 2, a Votann model with a beam weapon targets a unit C once again. Unit A and B lie in between the target model and the closest point of the target unit. Unit B was not eligible target for the original attack, however. It is wholly behind a terrain feature with the obscuring trait. And unlike the Titanic unit, contains no models with a wounds characteristic of 18 or higher, and so cannot be hit by the beam, but Unit A can. So again, in this case, we have the lookout sir rule preventing the character from being hit. In this case, we have intervening terrain with obscuring trait preventing this unit from being hit. And then in this case, GW just goes the worst possible decision they can make in this situation, in my opinion. Make one wound roll against a target unit, and each other unit this line passes over, excluding units that were not eligible to be targeted by this weapon when targets were selected. Obviously, friendly units are not eligible targets. So this is a complete contradiction of both examples right here and the actual core rules of the 40k game. And you might be saying, oh, that's fine. Who cares? We can make an exception, and put a little drawback on the beam weapons so they hit their own guys. Okay, but the problem with that is that this opens up a whole can of worms. So rather than fixing actual issues, GW is just digging itself a hole deeper and deeper. And if you're not sure exactly what I mean, let's take, for instance, you have a beam weapon and one of your units gets charged into combat. So now you have a unit that's in combat. You can use your beam weapon to shoot in the shooting phase, potentially kill some of your own models out of combat, and then use that unit to now shoot. So as crazy as that sounds, in the past, we have had situations where there's like super janky things where you can essentially kill models from your own unit and then benefit from it. So for instance, okay, there is one of the leagues that has, if you have a unit and they have taken any casualties, they're +1 to hit. So now with that league, every time you shoot a beam weapon, you can intentionally kill one of your own models with the beam weapon by shooting over it. And then now you shoot with that unit afterwards in the same shooting phase, and now it's +1 to hit. So you're basically trading maybe a kin warrior for 12 points or something like that to give the whole unit +1 to hit for the remainder of the game. And you can do that with literally every single beam weapon of yours. All you have to do is just position it so you shoot over one of your own units. So you could kill your units out of close combat. You can use it to damage your units. There's lots and lots of super janky stuff that can be done with this. And over time, GW has eliminated all your abilities to basically like intentionally kill your own models. And now here they are reintroducing the ability to kill your own models back into the game. All because they just had to make some ridiculous ruling. There's absolutely no reason, in my opinion, that an ineligible target that is your opponent's should not get hit, but an ineligible target because it's yours should. So in my opinion, this is a complete horrible decision on their part. And, they're just basically stacking terrible decision on top of terrible decision on top of. All right, and then next we have, if an attack with a beam weapon scores 1 or more additional hits on a target, do these additional hits also trigger wound rolls against any intervening units? So all that's saying is there are some weapons that if you're beyond a certain range, when you score a hit, it scores an additional hit. So let's say you have a 36 range on your weapon. If you're completely outside that 18 inches, when you get hit, another hit procs as well. So all this is saying is, yes, each time an additional hit is scored against a target, the hit counts as its own attack, and so will cause a wound roll to be made against the intervening units. So basically, if I shoot a unit, there's an intervening unit, and I proc the second hit because the first unit is outside of the 18 inches, it will actually proc a hit on the intervening unit as well. So again, just complete contradiction of the actual rules, in my opinion. And then finally, we have when a beam weapon causes a wound roll to be made against an intervening unit, does that unit count as having being hit by an attack for any other rules purposes? And the answer is no, which again is just absolutely ridiculous in my opinion, because when a unit gets hit by an attack, lots of useful abilities can trigger. Defensive abilities for that unit. There's lots of basically like defensive strats or something like that that are literally when a unit is hit or not just when a unit is targeted. So in this case, when a unit is hit, stuff is not going to proc. Now, the reason they did this, once again, is to try to change something in the codex, but now it's causing issues with how everything else works. So again, rather than just a simple fix, they have just overcomplicated themselves and just opened up a whole nother can of worms. And the main reason they did this is for one reason only. So for the Ymir conglomerate, they have a war gear strat for one command point called Pulsed Beam Discharge. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase. When a Ymir conglomerate unit from your army is selected to shoot, select one model in that unit and then select one beam weapon that it is equipped with. Until the end of the phase, each time a hit is scored with that weapon, the target suffers one mortal wound in addition to the normal damage. So their whole point of doing this is that intervening units do not count as being hit. Therefore, if you pop this strat, they only will go on to the initial target. Anything intervening is not going to take the extra mortal wounds from the hits because they weren't technically hit. So again, what could have been a simple fix by just changing this stratagem, they have now opened a massive can of worms that literally affects the entire 40k universe as far as defensive strats, offensive strats, all kinds of abilities, basically like everything. So again, they could have simply just come in here and said, Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a Ymir conglomerate unit from your army is selected to shoot. Select one model in that unit and then select one beam weapon that it is equipped with. Until the end of the phase, each time a hit is scored against the original target, the target suffers one mortal wound in addition to the normal damage. So all they had to do was just make a tiny little tweak to this stratagem, and they wouldn't have opened up this entire massive can of worms. The same way that just a tiny little tweak to other things could stop them from essentially allowing you to intentionally kill your own models and, potentially proc all kinds of different things. So in my opinion, GW once again has just completely dropped the ball on this. And the truth is, all these issues with the codex, as far as every single point value being changed in the entire codex for every unit, countless issues, including them having to completely nerf the army-wide special rule, making it so a bunch of other rules that are built on that army rule no longer work. And then on top of that, coming in here now and just coming up with ridiculous FAQs, allowing you to kill your own models intentionally, issues like this to further complicate the game. The truth is, in my opinion, from literally the beginning of the Leagues of Votann, this has just been an absolute huge disaster. You have a codex coming out with all the point values incorrect and the army-wide rule, basically being removed or heavily modified. You have literally non-stop issues with them, misprints in the actual book itself. We have all kinds of issues, FAQs that literally contradict the actual rules and the specific examples that were printed in the codex. I don't know what is wrong with Games Workshop that they cannot just make things simple. It would have been very, very easy to fix these simple issues, but instead they have completely taken the most indirect, most problem-causing route that they could have. So what is going to happen from this FAQ? The truth is, this is going to cause countless more problems, and then they're going to have to use the FAQ in the future to FAQ this FAQ. Because I'm going to tell you right now, people are going to abuse the changes. Anytime you allow people to, especially one specific army, to be able to kill its own models, you're giving them a huge advantage, and you're going to cause countless amounts of jank that are unforeseeable. I think from day one, this has been an absolute disaster. I made a Leagues of Votann army. I like them. They look absolutely awesome. I'm looking forward to showing them off on the channel. But to tell you the truth, it just seems like a never-ending slap in the face. For having a book that's completely invalidated, rules constantly changing, points values changing. I mean, it's just basically been impossible to kind of create an army and basically get any kind of enjoyment out of this. And the truth is, this isn't about regular people playing Leagues of Votann. The majority of this could have been avoided. All GW really needed to do was actually playtest this book before they put it out. All they needed to do was actually proofread the book and take out some of these mistakes and errors and everything. I don't know what the deal is, if they just rush this out, or if they just are understaffed, or if they just have incompetent people working there, or possibly hamsters. But the truth is, this has just been a complete disaster, and it keeps just being one on top of another on top of another. I think GW should do a full recall on the Leagues of Votann, buy everything back from everyone, take it, put it in a giant fire pit, and just burn it all and pretend like this never happened, because it has been a nonstop disaster. So it's very fortunate how this has all played out. As always, GW has handled this very, very poorly. And instead of just fixing the initial issues and correcting them and then moving forward, they have just created issue on top of issue on top of issue. And I'm confident that we're going to see more FAQs and more rules changes coming back, revising that rule, making it so you can't kill your own guys. Overcomplicating things is obviously what Games Workshop is great at. Rather than correcting the actual issue, GW basically dropped the ball from the beginning on this codex. They made it too powerful, then they slapped it with nerfs, then they changed all the point values, then it's just been one thing after another after another. And to tell you the truth, I'm 100% confident that this is going to cause more issues going into the future. So let me know what you think. What do you think about how they've handled Leagues of Votann? At this point in time, it's very difficult to even be excited or want to play with this army. It seems like non-stop changes are happening. There's a bad stigma behind it. Nobody wants anything to do with the Leagues of Votann. It would have been very simple for GW to just fix some of these issues. They could have waited a little longer for tournament results. They could have play tested a little more before they printed the book. They could have spent a little more time making sure the points were aligned correctly and the abilities were aligned correctly. This release has just been one disaster after another. And honestly, it just feels like Curse City all over again. So, well, that's it for today. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed these types of videos, reactions, reviews, news, painting, modeling, conversion tutorials, make sure to give us a like and subscribe. Put out daily videos for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team, Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, warcry, Forest Heresy, pretty much any of the Games Workshop games. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and I'm disappointed again. And I'm out of here.